Hello everybody, my name's James, and for the benefit of those listening to the audio, you're listening to Arch James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related or whatever they fancy. I suspect there'll be a lot of FPL stuff today, as it's been a bit of a 2-week break of interlull boringness, and we are circa just under 24 hours away from the game week 13 deadline. It's just coming up to 10 past 12 UK time. For clarity, and because I'm very open about the shit that I do, I made an FPL transfer on Wednesday evening, selling Caro Mitoma, who we expected to be injured according to Andy Naylor at The Athletic. Cheers, pal. And bought Brian Bumo. Yes, Bumo, not Mbumo. It's just Bumo apparently these days. And currently, I've got him bust on the bench for this week. That's very subject to the information that may be forthcoming on Jared Bowen. Most of the press conferences today are scheduled between 1 and 2 p.m. UK time. Bowen's out, I start Bumo. If Bowen's fit, then I probably still start Gabriel Martinelli just above Bumo, but I really wanted him for next week and that Luton Town home fixture, and I think that's a really good 4-game run for him. Luton at home, Brighton away, Sheffield United away, Villa at home, and I think I'll have him in place for 19 and 20 as well, with value in hand for that scheduled wildcard for me in game week 19. It does look like this week is generally a shit show for most people, but remember, it's the same for everybody else. So I think finding points is going to be hard to find. I think many of us have got conflicting issues where we've got players from certain teams playing up against each other. City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Villa, Brentford, Arsenal, maybe even Newcastle, Chelsea. And that's never an ideal position to be in, but just remember many others are in the same position this week. I think it's very much about just getting through this week as well as we can. Right, so let's move on to the questions. Hollis Stamos is first. Is hello James, cash to Saliba or roll? I think bearing in mind what I've just said, that I would say roll. I think that's a close enough that I'd rather leave it be. Again, depends on your strategy a little bit. So hypothetically, if you were free hitting in game week 18, I'd be more inclined to make that transfer and take advantage of Arsenal's free fixtures, maybe then move it into Chelsea, knowing that I could free hit Matty Cash in for game week 18 and the blank. But I looking further ahead, I think look at Villa's fixtures game week 17 onwards after the City Arsenal 2 games 15-16. Yeah, I think it will come back around for Matty Cash actually. So I wouldn't be desperate to move that on. I'm going to play Cash at Tottenham on Sunday, despite the fact I've got Son. I'm going to play a doggy, despite the fact I've got Watkins. I'm just going for the guys with the offensive potential this week. Ali Bismo says, hi James, planning to roll free transfer. Would you play Archer ahead of Palmer? Has got a great fixture at home. That's a close one, but I'm inclined to say probably yes, actually. Yeah, I probably just about would with that fixture. Obviously, it's a tough one for Palmer at Newcastle as well. Ali Bismo says, hi James, that's what we've done. Danelia says, hi James, what's your standout consciousness this game week? I have noticed I say consciousness a lot recently. Maybe I should start using awareness. My standout consciousness this week is that a lot of us have got players with conflicting fixtures, i.e. playing against players from the opponents who are also in our teams. And we just got to suffer it, I think, this week. It's probably going to be almost unavoidable that it's completely ignored and not a problem for someone somewhere. So that would be the consciousness. Nikolai Otney says, morning James, happy Friday mate. Decided to miss the Bumo price rise in order to get some Bowen news. Fingers crossed Moyes is somewhat transparent. No Haaland, so Mo or Son captain. Preference would be Mo. From that, I've been consistent on that since the start of the week, that I think Haaland and Salah are still the 2 best captaincy options this week. I think the game will be high scoring. And then I'd probably go Watkins over Son. So even in that, in the captaincy this week, you've got 1v2 playing against each other, 3v4 playing against each other. It's not an ideal week. So I think Salah for me on the captaincy. On Bowen, ex-West Ham United employee we know's got a little bit of an inside there with West Ham and is pretty genuine with his news. Has said that he didn't train yesterday but was also told that the issue wasn't bad, and also pointed towards waiting for David Moyes' press conference update later today. I suspect Moyes isn't going to give us anything that says he's fine. He's going to be either we'll assess him or he's in big trouble. He's going to be one or the other, I think. Alex MJ87 says, hi James, hope you're well. Would you start Areola or Leno in goal this week? With the home fixture, I'd arguably maybe just have a little bit of a lean to Burnt Leno, but I think that's a close one. I actually think that West Ham might get beat tomorrow if Bowen is ruled out injured. So slight preference with Areola. MRCX says, hey James, having Cash, Bowen, Mitoma and Haaland flagged, would you move any of them on? Well, Cash is fine, we know that. Haaland is fine, we know that. Mitoma was obviously shown in footage running out for training yesterday, so we think he's fine. Bowen is obviously, let's wait and see what the information is. So ideally, no. But look, I have moved Mitoma on anyway. Part of the inspiration for doing it was he was on the chopping block for me anyway, unfortunately. I don't think this weekend's a great fixture for him because I think Forest will let Brighton have plenty of the balls. I think space will probably be quite hard to find. And Chelsea away is not great. Brentford at home is kind of falls into the similar line as Forest a little bit. And then Burnley at home, sure, it's great, but what's to say he doesn't get rotated, and it's just a headache with them. So it depends, right? If you don't know where you want to go from Mitoma, I wouldn't bother. What I would add is, had I known definitively that Mitoma had no issue, I probably wouldn't have gone early on Wednesday. My impression at that point was that he was out, right? So it was a good excuse to do it. So if I was in a position now, no, it wouldn't have made sense really to force it through. Also says, hope you and the family are well. We are, thank you mate, cheers, hope yours are too. Noor Azari says, hi James, really thinking of going rogue with Cash, Gordon and Watkins out for 8 Nori, Eze and Solanke. Yeah, I don't mind it. I think like if you're going to go for Eze or Solanke, now feels like the time, right? With them playing Luton and Sheffield United respectively this week, so I can understand that. On 8 Nori, I referenced back what we'd said on COTC about these good fixtures in 13, 15, 16, 18 that appear for Wolves and Fulham. So I think they offer rotationable assets. 8 Nori probably would be the preference from Wolves players, but we should note obviously Hugo Bueno is back available as well. 8 Nori should be fine for Monday night. So I don't mind it. All I'd say, just come back around and say, right, those 3 players that you're getting rid of, there's every chance that you want them in game week 18. What are you going to do about that? Or what do you want to do about that? That's all. Stu Bryan says, hey James, could we see a Conte-esque system from Spurs against Villa, mainly to cover Dyer? Who's the better captain, Watkins or Son? Edging towards the former. Yeah, slight preference with Watkins. I'm probably going with Watkins vice captain this week, I think, behind Haaland. Conte-esque system, no chance. None. I just told you, he won't change. So, no, it'll be a back 4. It will be a back 4, which will have moving parts within that, but he won't play a back 3, mate. Juck says, hey James, Bowen to Son and captain. Have Salah, Saka, Bumo, Gordon, Swatkins, and Haaland's my attackers. I'm going to skip it, Juck, because I think I've already made my feelings clear on that. Bowen to Son. This is the old one where I say, right, so Bowen's a potential problem, right? I think Sonny probably, just to cover that, probably falls into the line right now of don't buy, don't sell. That would be my take. Unless you truly believe he's the best captaincy. If you do, praise to you, good luck, go for it. And I really hope it works out, obviously. But next week's Man City away, I think those of us who own might be looking at maybe even moving it, subject to what we see on Sunday, which will give us some more information, right? Is Lo Celso going to play there? Is it going to be Bentancur? What's going to be different? Is it going to work for Son? If it doesn't work against a high line like Villa, what does that tell us about future games? So, I would not be buying at the moment, personally. MRCX says, move Porro on now and get him back with Wildcard in game week 19, or hold him through the rough patch. I think it's probably a hold through, right? Again, this week looks really tough for defensive assets, so I think I'd ideally want to play the offensive assets. So Porro, in most circumstances, I'd play this week, despite the fact I would give Villa the edge to win on Sunday. Still a home game. He's going to pick up a few more of the set pieces in Maddison's absence. I think generally speaking it would be a hold, but the answer is never as straightforward as hold him or sell him, right? It's who's your other players. Like if you're looking at the next 3 or 4 weeks and you're going, actually I'm never going to start him because of what else you've got in the rest of your team, like it's a move on. If you're sitting there and you're going, well, go for Saliba and then I might want to change it back, or I don't want to go to Villa at the moment, or the Newcastle picture's a little bit blurred because we still don't know where we're at with Botman. Like, I'd hold it, right? You're not going to Shimmikas this week, for example. I'd hold it at the moment, I think. My intention, for what it's worth, is to hold Udogie through this period. So, if that tells you anything, but then that's a reference to what players I've got, right? What affects me. Lewis C says, hope you're doing well, James. I need to start one of Cash, Porro and Share. Who would you recommend? Also on bench, would you put Archer ahead of the 2 remaining defenders? Keep up the good stuff, mate. Yeah, I would put Archer above probably all of them this week. It's close, that. Newcastle's the one you'd feel the most trust in possibly keeping a clean sheet out of 3 teams. And Share can contribute offensively, we know that. No, I'd probably Share, yeah. Just because there's a little bit of offensive threat there, rather than say Lascelles is obviously minimal. So probably Share, Porro, Cash, I think, that order. JP says, when is the best time to buy Rodri back in Sky Fantasy Football? That would be next Sunday against Tottenham. But he's on 4 yellow cards, mate. And remember, there's no fixture in match week 18 as we stand. So I'm going to let it go at the moment. That said, if Bowen's ruled out, he comes under consideration for me for tomorrow. I would think. Possibly be him or Bumo. Steve says, hi James, what are your thoughts on Matty Cash to Tim Ream transfer in FPL, please? Don't like the idea of 3 Villa players as their games get harder soon, thanks. So again, it's relatable. Remember, when I'm covering these things, I'm approaching it from a perspective where really I've got, in terms of my outfield players, 13 available starters at the moment. If you're carrying your Cabores and the Cambers and stuff like this, then obviously looking forward in future weeks is obviously a lot rougher, right? So again, as mentioned yesterday on COTC, with Fulham Wolves, there is coverage there that may support and cover. So when Cash plays City and Arsenal, for example, Fulham host Nottingham Forest and West Ham, like that feels better. But let's also consider that across the board in the Premier League this season, goals are up and clean sheets are down. And therefore, I'd be very conscious right now, or have an awareness of moving attacking defensive players. I'd be very aware of that at the moment. So, it's not one for me. Let's put it that way. It's not for me. But I don't mind the thought process. Again, it's dependent on what's in your squad. JP says, I've had Emi Martinez for a while now on Sky along with Cash. It's been a disaster after hopping off of Sanchez. Should I hold both, one if them, or sell if sell who too? That's terribly written, mate, but thank you. I don't understand if hold one both. I don't get that. Right, Martinez, let's just focus on the crux of that. So from a potential move on perspective, you probably want to do it soon. One suggestion would maybe be, if you've got the luxury of spare transfers in Sky Fantasy, Martinez to Sarah or Leno on Monday night, and then move that on to Chelsea and Sanchez with their good fixtures. That would be the answer. JP says, how do you think City, Liverpool and Newcastle, Chelsea play out? I think Newcastle Chelsea is a very difficult one to call this week because of Newcastle's injury issues, and we can't be too sure what their lineup's going to be. Eddie Howe saying this morning that he doesn't want to give anything away on Isak suggests to me that he'll probably play, would be my take. Gimrej being back's obviously a big bonus. Chelsea team's a little bit more settled. I think there's a question mark in terms of whether Levi Colwill would come back in or not, and whether that's Disasai or Cucurella would miss out. I suspect it might be Disasai actually. So it's a tough call. So we did our predictions on our Patreon pod this morning. I called it 1-1 because I kind of fence sitting on that at the moment. City Liverpool, I think I'll have goals. I think it'll be a great game. I think both teams will try and win it. I'd just about give City the edge, which I think is common to do in home games that the Etihad. But I'm looking forward to it. I can see it being something like 3-2 City. NGGG24 says 8 Norrie or Maguire's my 5th defender from now till New Year. Yes, I know I'm in a lucky position, but this is my biggest decision. So preference there is with 8 Norrie, because I think there's more games where he would be useful to you as cover rather than Maguire, for example. 17 at Liverpool or 18 at West Ham in the blank don't feel great. Newcastle 14 don't feel great. Chelsea 15 doesn't feel great. There's less of that for Wolves. 14, most people should be okay, I think, for defensive assets when they go to Arsenal. And otherwise, their run of fixtures not too bad till they go to Brighton, which is the split weekend in Gameweek 21. So preference for me would be 8 Norrie. That said, there should be an awareness of, as I said, Hugo Bueno's return. Remember, Craig Dawson suspended this week. So he should be fine for this week. On Maguire, look, there's not many I'd be comfortable playing in. Bournemouth game week 16 is a week where many will have problems. Villa playing Arsenal, Tottenham playing Newcastle. It's kind of a repeat of this week where it feels a bit ugly. So I could get it be useful for you there, but Wolves have Forest at home, so it's equally as fine. So 8 Norrie the preference for me. Sheriff says, hi mate, start Archer or Palmer, big taste of your cash. So again, sticking with the offensive defensive players this week, I would go Matty Cash, and I would go Archer or Palmer as answer for someone else earlier. JP says, is 8 Norrie or any Wolves defender good to bring in for cash on Sky, FF and FPL? I wouldn't bother with a Wolves defender in Sky, mate. I wouldn't bother with that. TJ Rocco says, hi James, on Wildcard, would you include Bowen as a good long-term option? Also, would you prefer Fulham or Wolves defender 4.5 option? I think probably Tim Ream for me from the second part of the question. How can we include Bowen as a long-term option? We don't know the injury status at the moment. Now, if he's fit and he's fine, yeah, sure. Clear talisman for a team that will finish top half / mid-table, right? Reasonably priced this year. It obviously had a big hike last year. It's come back down a little bit. He could be playing OOP moving forward over the next month, which is more games than we think because of the congestionness of December, and Antonio might not be back till January. So yeah, if he's fine, certainly consideration to hold really long term. You look at West Ham's fixtures, look great, sort of up to game week 22. Arsenal away 19 looks bad. And obviously United at home and Brighton at home either side is a bit as a 3-game run. But they're both at home. And look at Bowen's away record even this season. So he scored at Anfield. He can score at the Emirates. So there's a long term. Yeah, sure. Alex Poyner says, hi James, hope all is well. Do you think there's a chance that in a few years Daniel Levy is actually an unsung hero because of how much he's slowly and sustainably grown the club? It's possible. I think that would depend how Tottenham do on the pitch, right? So if Tottenham do shit over the next few years, it's not going to matter. If Tottenham start doing well, then the angerness amongst people moves away, right? If Tottenham get well beat on Sunday and then get well beat at Man City next week, people are going to be saying, well, why didn't Daniel Levy spend some more bloody money? And, that's how it goes, right? So I think how he's thought of directly correlates to what happens on the pitch now. But yes, if Tottenham in 3 or 4 years are kind of established amongst the top 4 again, basically, then yes, he may well be. But he also needs to win something over that period for all the fans to be like, okay. Brian says, hi James, move off Cash and Mitoma for a hit. Would go Bumo and Pinnock / Mikalenko. So what you're saying, I think, Brian, is you want to go from Mitoma to Bumo, but you can't afford it in one move. I think that's what you're saying to me. So, no, I'm not keen. So you basically take a -4 for Bumo when he's playing probably the best defensive team in the league. No, it's a no for me. I wouldn't say Pinnock or Mikalenko are any better than Cash this week. Pinnock's certainly not. Dick Nick 123 says, "Hey James, hope you're doing well, bud. Looking to replace Bowen to overhauling Sky should he be injured. Thinking of either Isak, Rodri or Darwin Núñez. What are your thoughts? 43 transfers left at 5k. So I'll be honest, I've not really looked at it too much. I think with Sky, no need to overthink. I can take my time on that now, having made my kind of FPL decisions for this week already. Rodri and Bumo are the first two that come to mind, but I'll look at a few alternatives that might, yes, maybe even involve a Fulham or Wolves player on Monday night. It could be that, yeah, the entry into Rodri's... I'm put off by Rodri and his 4 yellows, I must say. Then Bumo obviously misses a fixture, but then Bumo misses City away, right? So I wouldn't have had huge expectation for that anyway. So the thing with Bumo as well is he might go in, I might captain him next week in Sky. So I think that's probably where I'd go. And shifting that money that way, I'll put quite a bit of money in the bank for me as well, where I might even be able to next Sunday take a punt on, say, a Van Dijk or something like that maybe. So I will have a look once David Moyes give us some information. But if it's like, oh, he's doubtful for tomorrow, he ain't going anywhere. You just stay for me. Ethan Justin says, "Hi James, mate. Would you move early for Reece James if you have transfers spare? Also, what do you think about a punt on Elanga for the next few? Cheers." Yeah, I don't hate the Elanga idea because I think with Awoniyi's obviously long-term injury and Hudson-Odoi is still a few weeks away, that pace of Elanga and the way Forest want to counter-attack, certainly in like fixtures tomorrow, probably comes in pretty handy. So I don't mind that. It is pretty punty. But I don't hate it. Let me say that. Let me say I don't hate it. On the Reece James, I really get the question. I think it's a good question. Because one of the things I keep looking at is game week 15. And there being every possibility that maybe I might land there with 2 free transfers, or even land in game week 16 and have 2 free transfers, and not being too sure what I'd want to do with it. I'll give you an example. So, for me, Wildcard in 19, on the face of it, selling Saliba for Reece James over that period, Arsenal, Villa away, Brighton at home, Liverpool away, Old Chelsea have Everton away, Sheffield United at home, Wolves away, seems perfectly reasonable. Similar price, just make the direct transfer fixtures better. You can change it again on Wildcard if you want. But Saliba's probably going to hit 5.5 this week. And I'm pretty certain he'd be part of the Wildcard in 19. So do I want to hold the value? I mean, once we get into 2024, my requirements to want to seek out value feel less important. But if that's a player I know I want, and I'm going to sell him for 3 weeks, and I'm going to take a hit where he's 5.5 and I'm selling him for 5.2, and who knows if he performed well over that period, maybe got 5.6, is that right? I don't know how to measure that. I'll be very honest, right? That's one for the clever kids. I'm not really sure how I'd measure that. But it does make me think, well, I'm not sure I want to move that. So you look at things like Shimikas to James, which probably, if I went for, say, Palmer to in for Bowen next week, if there is a Bowen problem, then I've obviously got the money to do that sort of thing. I'd go Lascelles to James. But there's an awareness of, whoa, if I sell Shimikas, Palace away, and then 2 home fixtures, maybe I don't want to do that. Lascelles could be very handy for me in 18 if Botman is still day-to-day assessment by then. So I get it. I think it's pretty risky to go now, but I get the idea. You might be sitting there with 2 free transfers and going, well, everything looks a bit shit this week. I don't really want to know. So I get it. And you could just go, I'll go early. I don't mind that. It's partly what I'd be doing with Palmer, right? If I go next week. I'm probably going a bit early, although I'd probably start him against Brighton in 14, so it would be worthwhile. I don't mind it. I don't need to give you the caveat that you already know, right? You want Reece James really from game week 16 onwards. If he stays fit between now and then, we know there's going to be investment going into game week 16. We've heard the we'll be there no matter what, right? So going in early could be a smart move. You also know what can happen, right? There's no guarantee he's going to stay fit. The other thing, I'll repeat what I've said several times on him, is he is not playing 18, 19 and 20. So if you're going for a player like that, you want some cover. Now, which fixture that is he misses between Palace at home 19 and Luton away, I don't really know. But I don't think he's starting both of them. I don't think Chelsea take a chance for him. 3 fixtures that close together. Michael Lowe says, hope you're well. James, opinion on Spurs has swung wildly since what was obviously a tough night versus Chelsea. Do you think there's an overreaction? You're missing key players but still have decent ones. No, I think the reaction's probably fair overall. It depends who you listen to, right? So some people will overreact. But the reality is, like, if Tottenham were stuck with this team that they've got now, without Maddison, Romero and Van der Ven for the rest of this season, we are at best 7th or 8th, I think, at best. And that would be considering we've already got these points on the board. I'd probably say we're more like a 9th or 10th team, right? So it is a big impact, right? I'm not making any excuses. Everyone gets their injuries and stuff. It's just a little easier for some teams to deal with because they've got better strength in depth. Right? There is no question mark on Van der Ven, Romero and Maddison, or Udogie last week, Bissouma this week suspended, being part of Tottenham's best 11, right? So it's hit us a little bit harder. We just have to get on with it and deal with it. I think it's probably made the club realise that they can't just rely on these 11 players for the rest of the season, particularly with players, Bissouma, Sarr, Son, who are all going to leave for AFCON/Asia Cup, right, after, I would presume, after game week 20. So Tottenham need to sort out the squad, right? It's not an overnight fix, right? Because I'd almost rather as well, rather than just plug the gap in January, if Tottenham know what they want and believe they can get it in the summer, I'd almost rather they waited, and you might have to look at something coming in on loan in January as a short term. Someone who's happy to take a wage and prepared to be cover for Romero and Van der Ven if they're fit. How you get an understudy for Maddison is just tough, right? So, no, I don't think there's been an overreaction. I think that the loss of those 3 players is huge to Tottenham. So, no, I get it. I get it. Attila says, hi, James. Would injuries change your thoughts on Wildcard 18? Thoughts on Wildcard 14? Look, I regularly have a check at Wildcard options. I put for our patrons, our advanced tiers, I look at what I would have done at the start of this week if I was on Wildcard now. Don't like it. Don't even think it's better than what I've got currently. Wildcard 18 isn't impossible for me, in the sense I think Chelsea, Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham all have pretty decent fixtures in the majority of weeks afterwards. So if I landed really badly for 18, then I'd consider it. But then the manoeuvre around Manchester City players then becomes more awkward, right? And that's what we want to do in 19. Even if the double doesn't happen, right? It's still Sheffield United at home in game week 20, Burnley at home in 22, right? We're still going to want Manchester City assets. So wildcard in 18 makes that trickier. Now you can set that up and go, well, I'll go Haaland, Foden, Flecken, Bumo and leave them all on the bench, right, in 18. I have considered that sort of thing. So it's not an impossibility for me. When I spoke earlier in the year, I spoke about 18 or 19 quite a bit. I'm not ruling myself out of 18. The more it's getting closer, like I don't feel I'd be in terrible shape for 19, as long as I sort of hold on to Watkins and Son over this period, which might prove to be a mistake, right? And I might look at a situation where I go, I'm going to move Sonny on after what I see on Sunday, right? If Watkins was to get injured, say I was to sell Watkins and Son, and then they're both going to be available for 18, that's the sort of thing that might make me say, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to look at this a little bit earlier. And then you can throw in people like Kieran Trippier, he'll probably be out of reach for me. So, yeah, again, it's very dependent on how you set up. I think there should be an openness to it, but I think generally 19 will still be the better option for most. Besha says, hi, James, Castagna or Ream or Colwell for 15, 16, 18. Or is there a better 4.5-ish defender for that period? Definitely Ream over Castagna for me, just because Kane Tete's back fit, and I think that causes question marks over the fullbacks. I recommend obviously listening to what Dara Curran said on COTC yesterday. On Colwell, couldn't be going down. No. You couldn't be assured of the starts, could you? Remember, Benoit Badiashiel's basically fit now as well, right? So, like, if you're on, like, it's okay. I wouldn't stress yet. I wouldn't be buying Colwell at the moment. Vish says, hi, should I downgrade Saka or Son to free up funds for Haaland in the long term? The answer to your question you'll know at the end of this weekend, based on Sonny's performance on Sunday. And not just Sonny's performance, but Tottenham's performance. That's going to give you the answer in reality if you're looking further forward and you're not doing that move now. Saka, I would suggest, before Wolves at home and Luton away, would be a tough sell. It might even be that you go, okay, I'm going to sell Son, and then I'm going to go Saka to Son in a few weeks further on. That might be something to consider. So the answer might lie somewhere in the middle. Owen Wilson says, hi James, want a second Arsenal defender, already have Gabriel, can't afford Saliba or White. Do you think a punt on Zinchenko or Tomiyasu is too risky? Yeah, probably. We haven't really got the Ben White information we'd have wanted today, so the report from Mikel Arteta's presser was that he trained alone yesterday, but Arteta said if he trained with the team today, he'd be involved tomorrow. I think Tomiyasu will play tomorrow. It's a sneaky I have on defending Brentford and aerial stuff. So I think one of Zinchenko or White might miss out tomorrow, actually. Although I did hear rumours that Tomiyasu may even have an issue as well, but it wasn't covered in Arteta's presser. I don't think I'd go there over this period, personally. Nah. Wolves, Luton, you might only get one fixture out of whichever one you go for. Then there's a few fixtures you're not going to love from defensive, so I'd come back to it. So not keen. I would either get to Saliba or not bother at this stage would be my take until Tomiyasu inevitably gets injured in the next few weeks, then goes Zinchenko. MRCX says, any tips how a foreigner can feasibly get tickets to a Premier League game? I'm not the best person to ask. I'm really kind of unskilled from this perspective. Because I have a season ticket, it's not something I have a great awareness of, and I certainly don't know how it works at other clubs, whether you need memberships. I'm not best placed to answer that question because it's not something I ever have to do for home games, right? And I'm in a privileged position where I get tickets for the majority of away games that I want to go to. Harvey says, would you do Trent and Watkins to Castagne or another 4.5 or less, plus Haaland for free? Yes. Yeah, I would, yeah. I'd be wanting to stick him back in. Because for me, Haaland's, in my opinion, is the best captaincy for the next 5 game weeks. And if you want to even factor in the blank as well, then you could say 6 on the next 8. That's my take. So, yes, and I would prefer Ream over Castagne as covered previously for someone else. Matthew Shorts has been a busy week. Haven't caught up in the pods. Sorry, bud. That's all right, mate. If you had to give me 3 players you transfer in over the next 3 weeks and free your transfer out, who would they be? So, I've already gone Bumo for Mitoma, which, to repeat, I probably wouldn't have done now if I thought Mitoma was going to be fit this week. I'd have probably left it and rolled. It just would have been a little bit more powerful. And to be honest, I may well have been pulling that transfer as early as Saturday night, subject to transfers over the next 36 hours or so. Bowen to Palmer is a possibility for me in 14. If Bowen's fine, then he probably stays. And I would consider moves such as Watkins to Nunes or Isak. Sanchez for Johnston's one I've got earmarked for 16. But I do end up in a position where between 14 and 15, if Bowen remains fit, there might not be a lot I want to do. Son is a potential sacrifice as well. So it could be that the door opens up back up for me, and I will look at it again next week. Son to Salah and obviously downgrading someone else before you're asked. No, I can't go Bowen to Palmer and Son to Salah. It doesn't work. It'd still be about a million out. So open-minded. But I'm working within a core, probably a sort of 15 players tops that are in my thinking at the moment across these forthcoming weeks. And I have a real awareness of where I want to be for game week 18, which those of you who's Wildcard need to plough through it and consider their City Brentford options around that as well. So despite the fact I'm aiming for 18, I've still bought Boomo, right? Who's obviously got a blank. That's because I really like the 4 fixtures after Arsenal. Alistair Coper says, hey mate, potentially looking at getting a Brentford defender next week. Pinnock seems a safe choice, but shares really good attacking numbers. You think he might be a better option? Cheers. I just wouldn't chance that with a Jair. So Brentford don't have great options in particularly the right back area, right? But in some of these, let's say on paper easier fixtures, Roslev might get a nod. I don't think he will, but he might. I don't think Ethan Pinnock's position in the team is questioned, really. Tom Med told us in pre-season that he thought Pinnock was number one choice for Brentford, despite the addition of obviously Collins and Ben Mee's performances last year. So I don't think there's enough to risk it. That would be my take. Vish says, what to do with Bowen if out for this week? Well, for me, it's nothing, because I have the cover. For those who don't, you may want to do something about it. But if you're looking for a 1 week, no, it's not great, is it? I think if he's ruled out, you'll probably get a surge of people talking about Ebe Eze over the next few hours. Because the next 3 are good, and then you move that on to a Chelsea player afterwards. I think that would be a popular move for people if they can't hold through. Daniel Cullerton says, sold Solanke for Ferguson last week. Should just admit mistake and go straight back. Stick with Ferguson or bench Ferguson and start Hwang. Thanks, mate. Just reverse it, mate. Yeah, honestly. You must answer your own question, I think, Daniel, where you probably know that's the right move. And I get why you don't want to do it. I'd probably be stubborn about it and go, oh, bloody hell. But we actually had a discussion on our Patreon pod this morning about something very similar with Dominic Solanke, about selling him and going, that was a mistake, maybe getting back. So I think that probably solves your solution better. If you can get up to Darwin Isak, cool, but I suspect you probably can't. So yeah, I would just turn that around. Ferguson, João Pedro, all these players are going to be headaches. Mitoma we know will probably play the majority, we know that. And I think Adingra is cheap enough and also falls into that 5th midfielder line where you can make decisions whether you want to play him or not, and I don't mind investing in him. The forwards, now we got too many good options coming up, right? Solanke at that value, Nunes, Isak, Watkins to hold through. Suddenly there looks like there's going to be a few in there, and of course Christopher Nkunku's coming back as well. So no, I wouldn't want to be holding Evan Ferguson around. As much as I admire him and think he's an unbelievable talent right now for FPL, no. Might be one to look at again maybe in January, but there's too many games between now and then. MRCX would like everyone to smash a like for me. Thank you, mate. Yeah, if you're watching live, smash a like. Be hugely appreciated. It doesn't cost anything. Helps keep the lights on, as our patrons do. If you want to support the show, because you want to support the show or because you want additional content, www.patreon.com/planetfpl. For those listening to the audio, 5-star review goes much further than you can imagine, actually, and would be hugely appreciated. Thank you. Sweet Blue says, hey, James, happy weekend and return of club football. Would you do Ferguson to Chris Wood or just roll and hope Ferguson starts? I guess De Zerbi Presser will be useful. He might be. Chris Wood. So, I get it, right? If he's going to play up front every week for Forest, 4.9, cool, why not? Good run of fixtures. People were talking about Awen Yi. Why not consider Wood at sort of circa 2 million cheaper? Get it. I do get it. And there's the recency of the 2 goals he scored against Luton. But Divock Origi's presence looms. He's also had his injury problems. So I'm not keen. I wouldn't make the move this week. And if it helps, Mr. Mark Southerns will be on COTC on Tuesday. And I think we'll probably be able to give us a little bit more inside opinion on Wood versus Origi and expected minute likelihood up till Christmas. And look, Forest have got Everton at home next week, right? So I think if you miss this week, you're not going to feel too much like you missed the boat. I'd roll, my friend. I'd roll and leave yourself the alternative options. It might be you look next week and go, oh, right, sugar, I can make this move and get Isak for something else, right? So I think Raul would be a bit more powerful. Thomas Jones says, hey James, hope you're doing well, mate. Fun with flags, eh? Yeah. The yellow ones don't bother me too much, mate. Looks like most have cleared up besides Bowen, exactly. Thoughts of taking a -4 to replace Bowen? Archer to Eze Solanke has played cover for December. Well, Bowen and Archer will play the majority of games for their respective clubs. So I'm not necessarily sure that you're hugely improving that. Now you're buying talisman, which I like, but Bowen is obviously also one of them. Again, I think if you were going to go, then now would be the time for Eze or Solanke. If Bowen is ruled out, I'm okay with it. If he isn't, I'd be less keen. And Archer has a good fixture this week, right? JP says Solanke and Eze in for Ferguson Mitoma worth 2 free transfers. Yes, I don't mind that. Robbie Kahar says afternoon to all. Darren Jenkins says hello, mate. Martinelli, Udogie and Gay out next week for Pinnock, Saliba and Bumo. Or Martinelli, Saka and Trippier out for Hwang, Salah and Ait-Nouri. There's a lot going on there, mate. Do you want 2 Wolves players in your FPL team? Probably be the number one thing I'd come back to. I mean, you're buying them next week and they've got Arsenal away. Timing's not right. And you're selling Martinelli and Saka when they're about to play Wolves. That's not right. You're taking out 2 very good players, 3 very good players to put Mo Salah in. That's not right. So I would prefer the Pinnock, Saliba, Bumo option. At least Brentford have got Luton at home, right? But again, see how you feel after the weekend, Darren. Matthew McCaffrey says, hi James, would you take out Martinelli for Son? Plan to captain him? No, I wouldn't. Son's got Villa, City, West Ham. Martinelli's got Brentford, Wolves, Luton. Now, do I think Son outscores him over that? Yeah, probably, actually. Enough to make that worthwhile transfer? No, and sorry, I don't. I hope I'm wrong. I desperately hope I'm wrong. I don't see him as best captaincy option this week. Carl Valencia says, prediction on Spurs Villa score. Do we really think Lo Celso is going to come in and do a job? He hasn't part from one period during COVID. 3-0 Villa is my prediction. Play your Villa including cash. Well, you didn't ask a question there, Carl, so I'll just comfortably skip that. But yeah, I think Villa will win. I don't think it will be like that, but I think they'll win. Paul H says, hi James, Diaby to Eze, a good move. I will stick to what I said on the podcast with Suj 11 days ago, where I said don't sell Diaby or Watkins going into this week. And my opinion on that has not changed. FPL Discomfort says, afternoon James, who do I bench out of Adingra, Bumo and Diaby? Probably Adingra, I would say from that. George Pirakablu, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, hello James, would you play Livramento this week on roll or bench Livramento and buy Ait-Nouri? There's more power in rolling there, isn't there, mate? Again, you want to come back for Ait-Nouri and use him for 15, 16. Once you've got a bit more info, you can. Robbie says, hi James, would you start Baldock ahead of Saliba? No. The bookies have got Arsenal as the most likely team to keep a clean sheet this week, by the way, which tells you in itself, Brentford away, not easy. What a shit show this set of fixtures are for fantasy. Hayley Beck says, hi James, if Bowen is out, is Ings worth a punt, not Kane? No, I think Moyes hasn't really wanted to use him, right? And it could be that West Ham's solution would maybe be to play Mohamed Kudus there. Might be one way round it. You get Ben Rama in the left. Could you play Paquetá off the right? Maybe so. And you could still have Souček, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez together then. So I wouldn't be keen unless he got in. I think with Danny Ings, because I have thought about it actually. With him, you want him. I think you need to see the return first, and then have the confidence to go, okay, he's going to play the next one. But no, wouldn't truly be on radar for me until he had a good weekend. But then I'd also be thinking, I've missed Burnley now. CRS27 says, does Bowen out hinder or help Souček? Brought him in this week to get funds. Not too much of a difference in my opinion. I still expect Souček to play the role similar to what he has been doing. So not too much of a difference from that perspective. With him as well, you could look at a tall player like that and think, oh, well, he's flicking it on for Bowen, and now he might be flicking it on for someone else that's not as good. But Soucek's returns is still very much about him and attacking wide deliveries, right? So I don't think it would make too much of a difference. Ilan Melchior says, hi James, what is your prediction on Ferguson starting this week? He's my first sub, and if I feel he has a good chance of starting, I might just leave Bowen in my team as I built some value on him. Fine. Prediction for Evan Ferguson starting this week, 45%. I do have João Pedro in my predicted lineup at the moment. Rags326 says, hi James, a lot of focus on how good a matchup Son is for Villa, but a lot less on how well Spurs are set up or Watkins. Is this being overlooked given the Spurs squad issues? Yeah, I've already covered, mate, so I'm not going to go over it. I've covered it a lot the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I've already said Watkins is likely to be my vice-captain this week. Eddie says, what midfield would you like to see start for Spurs on Sunday? I'd like to see Bentancur as the 6, Sarr and Gio. Yes, I agree with that, Eddie. That's the 3 I would want to see. It would just be question marks on what you can do with Bentancur and Lo Celso in terms of the 90 minutes, right? If you need to take both of them out at the same time later in the game, and then it becomes like Højbjerg, Sarr, Skip, that's rough. So I think that has to be factored in. If you're looking at it and going, well, I don't think either can get me 90 minutes at the moment, then I don't think they can both start. Is that the 3 I'd like to see? Yeah, sure. I think probably the more sensible call at the moment would be that Bentancur wouldn't start. I love him. You should all know, if you've listened to me long enough, I think the world of him. But I don't think he's quite ready yet. Would I like to see him in it? Would I be happy if I get to Tottenham and I see that's the midfield 3 on Sunday? I'll be happy, but I will also be concerned about the latter part of the game under that circumstance. Sam Megginson says, hi James, I'm debating Castagne or 8 Nori. I'm leaning towards Castagne for his rotation with Cash and Burnley in 18 thoughts. Said I would avoid Fulham's fullbacks. Yes, there's a bit of an upside, but I'd avoid it. You want these guys because you want them to play. I think you're not going, I want Castagne because I think he's an insane asset. Like, you're not going to play him at Liverpool next week. It's the minutes you're more interested in for the games you need it, and therefore I'd just go Tim Ream. James Stevenson says, hi James, done Cash to Zinchenko as a bit of fun, and noticed if I do share down to Castagne, God, someone on somebody's content this week has really tipped up Timothy Castagne. That would allow me funds to get Saka and Bumo in Gameweek 14 from -4. Thoughts? Already got Mo, Robot, Son, Ollie. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd be keen on Saka and Bumo next week from -4. Sounds great. I'm not going to repeat myself on Castagne again. No. Dave M says, hi James, Alvarez and Elliot Anderson to Archer and Bumo from -4 for long term, or do Diaby to Bumo for free. I'm just looking at it and going, do you need Archer to play this week? You're trying to restructure, right? I also think Alvarez would be a great bet for next week against my team as well. I'm not keen on that as a -4 now. Like, for me, as I've said earlier, if the word today is, oh shit, Bowen's out for 3 weeks, then I'm selling him, but I'm not selling him this week because there's nothing there that I see is worthwhile enough for a -4. He's, oh, go Eze. I'm not keen enough on that for a -4. I don't think that would be the one I'd maybe consider, but no, I don't think so. Dave M says, hi James, that's what we've done, sorry. Eddie says, do you think too much Spurs to hold Brennan, Son and Porro over the coming period? Well, you're probably not going to want to look at all 3 of that next week against Man City. It's a reality, but it also, Eddie, where's your bench, right? Son, you'd be quite happy to play in that fixture, I think. Brennan Johnson might not be terrible. Porro will feel uncomfortable, but then they're all in for offensive reasons. You won't want to look at that 3 against Man City next week, though. My friend Dread FPL says, morning James, hope you're well, mate. If Bowen is fit, I'll need to bench one of Diaby, Alvarez or Gordon. Which would you choose? From that lot, Gordon. Diaby, you'll see on the deadline stream tomorrow morning, he'll be in my top 10 for captaincy this week. The answer from that, and so will Alvarez. Gordon would be the answer for me on that. Goose4411 says, hi James, first making the live stream from America. Welcome. Solanke, a good 8th option for the rest of 2023. Yeah, can't argue that. Can't argue that at all. And I think you can play him in nearly every game. Every game, it's okay to play him in. There's a difficult period from game week 20, but you can deal with that as and when. You could go to Nkunku around there and whatever. There'll be loads of alternative options back to Watkins, whatever. So, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Again, to repeat, I think if people are going Solanke, Eze, time is now if you want to do it. James Stevenson says, as a note, the players I would remove for Saka and Bumo in 14 for the -4 would be Bowen and Mitoma out. It's the moment's gone, James, but thank you. Thomas Powell says, hey, James, what supermarket would the following managers be? Dyche, Fergie, Ange, Mick McCarthy, Laudrup. Which Laudrup, mate? There's 2 of them. They look alike, admittedly. I'm going to assume you mean Michael. Don't know if Brian Laudrup went into management now. I'm doubting myself. Fergie's M&S. Ange's Waitrose. Laudrup Sainsbury's. Dyche's Morrison's. Mick McCarthy, sorry pal, you're Aldi. Anna Batari says, start Palmer or Gordon or Archer in priority. I'd play Archer with that this week. Gazman says, hi James, sorry if this has been asked, working at Mo. Gordon to Eze for free, a good move. Already did Matoma to Bumo, good luck this weekend. I don't mind it, but again, just track yourself back. Look at them 3 Newcastle fixtures, 17 to 19. Do you want Gordon back? Are you potentially looking at this and going Gordon to Eze, Eze to Gordon? No, I don't mind it if your squad's brilliantly set up, but otherwise I'd maybe just roll through with Gordon. I don't think his fixtures are bad enough that it requires movement. Multi-Live Evil says, keep Matoma or get Bumo. At this point in time, with the price having gone up last night already, I would most likely be keeping Matoma for this week, but I would want to move it next week. Owen Jones says, James, sorry if I missed you already saying this, but is Porro a long-term hold? Set piece taking defenders are the holy grail of fantasy football. Yeah, I mean, I covered a bit on attacking defensive players at the start, and generally speaking, yeah, it would be a hold. But again, it's dependent on the rest of your squad. If you're sitting there with Kabore and Baldock on the bench, you don't want to look at Porro at Man City next week, right? Owen Jones says, and one more question. I'm on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Do I ship to Isak at the next chance? Everton at home for 3 of the next 4 scoring goals. I would have an awareness of potentially making that move, but also wouldn't rush it. I think there should be a consideration on things like Newcastle play at Everton in game week 15 and then play at Tottenham 3 days later. Could Isak be a sub at Everton and make sure he's all right for Tottenham? I think that's a possibility. Similarly, they play Fulham in 17. How serious do they treat the Carabao Cup quarter-final with Chelsea 3 days later? Probably not serious enough for Isak to play, but I might have that wrong. So I'm looking at it more at a 17/18 for the move, personally. So I'd be quite happy to keep Calvert-Lewin over the next few. I mean, it's fine, as you said, 3 of the 4 at home, and then Forest away is the away game over that period, and they've just lost their best attacking player, so they'll probably hold. Excuse me. FPL Habesha says, what's your thoughts on Shimikas, Gabriel, Nunes and Cash for the December fixtures, expected minutes wise? Shimikas is really difficult to look beyond the Palace game in 16. I would say he probably doesn't start Fulham, Sheffield United and Palace, and I don't think he starts tomorrow either, by the way, but I don't think that's reason to panic about it. Gabriel, you got to factor in things like Arsenal playing the Champions League Wednesday, then it's Wolves Saturday, Luton Tuesday. There's every chance he's missing one, right? And that will apply to a lot of the players in the Arsenal squad. There's every chance he'd miss something. If I had an Arsenal player, let's say I've got Martinelli, right? If Martinelli plays 90 minutes against Seville and Wolves, I think it's not Seville, is it? Sorry, Lens and Wolves. Then I'm pretty concerned about Martinelli at Luton on the Tuesday night and thinking, well, we might play Trossard, right? As an example. Cash, not huge concerns about. Really? Nope. Alex Moreno's return may have a little bit of an impact, but I still just think it's more likely to be him in competition with Luca Dean. So Cash and Dean have been playing together regularly enough now that I don't think Moreno's return has a huge impact on that. Plus, I also think, excuse me, I don't think Unai Emery wants to take Ezri Konsa out of the centre-back position at the moment either. So no real concerns. Cash. Nunez is similar, right? Fulham, Sheffield United, Palace, does he start all three? Probably not. Other than that, does he start the majority? I would say yes. Yes. Eddie says, if Bowen is out, sell him from Bumo or for Eze, then move out Brennan from Bumo next week and move Eze to Palmer in 16. Tempted to keep Brennan long term. You sound like you've already worked that out, Eddie. I think that's fine what you've got there, mate. Craig Kemp, my friend, says, I'm already playing Saliba and Gay. Would you play Gabriel or Lascelles with them? Also playing Bumo if that impacts choice. If I said to you, Craig, Gabriel, Lascelles, one of them scoring this week, who are you going for? You'd go Gabriel, wouldn't you? And I get it with the confliction, right? I've got a similar debate, right? Where I look at, say, I could play Lascelles rather than Cash, right? I got Cash against Son. I could play Lascelles. Now, I'm going to go with Cash. And I think the right answer there would be Gabriel. I also know I bought Bumo in, and that's conflicting with my Saliba choice, right? I think this week is such a shit show in terms of conflict of interest. Just play your best players this week. That's my take. Owen Jones would like everyone to like the stream. That's very much appreciated, mate. Right, I'm going to cover off. I can see Addy Tor's questions. There's 5 more I'm going to cover off. N Brown says, afternoon, James. Enjoying this setup with the graphics. Looks super clean. Thank you. That's all FPL captain's work. Think I'm shifting. It's not actually. It's part me. But the original setup is captain's work. Think I'm shifting Mitoma and Bowen for Eze and Palmer this week. Definitely early for Palmer. Think Chelsea can perform. Fine. Sweet Blue says, when does Alex Moreno make his first start of the season? I think it's coming. I'd suspect it's probably Thursday in the Conference League, and then we'll see where we are from there. Could be very nice for Gameweek 18 possibly. Yes, he absolutely could be. But again, that's one you'd probably rather leave till late, I suspect. Benji Burrows says, come you Spurs, I presume. This will probably be covered in your benching tiers tomorrow. But start 2 Cash, Shimikas, Livramento and Kabore. The best players there would be, for me, Cash, Livramento. Livramento, as long as he's fit, almost definitely plays because Lewis Hall, remember, is obviously ineligible. Shimikas, you just don't want at City. That's obvious. That one you obviously do factor the fixture in. So Cash, Livramento, Kabore, Shimikas would be my order. Addy Tor finally gets the final question. Says, hi James, what have you enjoyed the most in the international break? It ending. The international break ending and getting club football back. Great. Yeah. That's it now for ages. Stop listening to people moaning about Southgate and England and just know that the only thing that matters is the end of June. Not even the start of June. The end of June and July next year is the only thing that matters with England. Right, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, guys. If I've not got to your question, apologies. If you want to tag me on Twitter, I'll happily answer your question during the course of the day. That's not slide into my DMs because chances are I'll probably just ignore it. If you want to tag me on Twitter, I'll happily quote tweet it and everyone can see my answer from there as well. As a reminder, if you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/PlanetFPL. I've got a little something coming up for my patrons. Which I don't know if I'll be able to announce today, but it's coming just as a little thank you stuff. Next week's content, the free stuff, by the way. Me and Suj will be doing a game review Monday. Got 2 Clash of Correspondence for you next week. Forest v Everton Tuesday. Mark Southerns and Sean Norton. Thursday, West Ham v Palace with Chris Stone and Rory McLaughlin-Dowd. Suj will be with me for Sky Fantasy Pod on Wednesday, and it's highly likely to be an Ask James stream next Friday as well. Obviously, for those on YouTube, if you want to join me for the deadline stream tomorrow, that will be live right here at 10 a.m. UK time tomorrow morning as well. But just using to say thanks very much, everyone. Smash a like, hit the sub button on your way out, and for the benefit of those on the audio cue music, please, Manchild.